over here. All right. So Ascribe version 8.0 is set to be released on September 19th of 2014. That is a Friday. And what we've done, or what we like to do, is give the Ascribe community a chance to preview software before we release it. So we try to give 2 weeks where our customers, our clients, our community can log into the software on our test servers and really give it a test drive prior to the release so that you know if there's anything for your team that might affect you in version 8.0, and they have ample opportunity to address it with us and with your team. Okay? So today, my little agenda here, I'm going to go over our test server considerations. If you do decide to test drive version 8.0, you know, where you'll be doing that and what the considerations are for our test server, how to access the test server, how to report issues or bugs, and then we'll talk a little bit about what's new, and I'll open the floor for questions. Some test server considerations, again, and this is the server that I'm going to be using as well during my demonstration. This test server is not a live database. It's hosted here somewhere in Ohio. It's not where we actually conduct our live work. And our test servers are noticeably slower than our live servers. They do pretty well, but they are a few seconds lag compared to our live servers. We just don't put the resources into the test servers that we do to the live servers. Any work that you conduct on the test servers could be erased. That's a very important thing to remember, probably one of the most important things. Don't do live work on the test server. We urge you not to conduct live work on the test servers, but usually I tell people, please don't do live work. I don't want any mishaps to happen and you lose something that was important. The test server databases that we're using, I think it's from July of 2014. What that means is that it's like a mirror image or a copy of your server, of your site, as it existed in July. I don't have the exact date on that yet, but I'm hopeful to have that soon. Passwords may need to be reset on the test server. So, for instance, if I go to log into my ACM demo account and I've changed my password since the database, you know, the restored date, I may need to have someone reset my password for me. And the same for you. If you find that you can't log in, let me know, and we'll take care of it. User accounts added in the past month will not exist on the test server because the test server doesn't know they're there. And the restored database and the live database could be very similar, and is very similar. You know, you're looking basically at a snapshot of your account as it existed in July. So just be aware which version you're in if you do decide to do a test run. And that'll be pretty easy to do with version 8.0 because there's a lot of visual changes in version 8.0. Also, we do updates to the test server every morning. Probably won't be that many changes because we've already been testing the software for quite some time. And as always, we ask that you report any issues, bugs, concerns, or even, you know, feedback. Just give us any feedback as soon as you can. So to give us feedback, we use our support@languagelogic.net email address. So any issues, questions, bugs, or suggestions, support@languagelogic.net is the place to email. We do ask some details to be included in those emails. And basically, we like you to put version 8.0 in the subject of the email. And then, of course, the area of the software, the tool in use, your account, always important, study ID, question ID, codebook or codebook ID, a screenshot if possible, a description of the problem, issue, or bug, any error details, and of course we ask for a new email for each issue with new subject. And this is mainly so the support team can properly deal with these things. And version 8.0, of course, responding to version 8.0 emails will come after responding to, you know, live work. Okay. So what's new in version 8.0? We've done a homepage renovation that I'll be walking you through with some product-based navigation. And our navigation icon is replacing the blue menu and our right-click and white space navigation. And then we'll be talking about this new hamburger that we have on the homepage. As I kind of mentioned before, the whole look and feel we've tried to give it a cohesive, updated, modernized look and feel. With a header and footer icon on every page, an indication of the page that you're on, and again, the navigation icon. Our tables and grids have been updated. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then we'll go into the Ascribe Coder enhancements. And I'll talk very briefly about the modernization of Ascribe Accelerator. And why did my agenda come up next? There we go. To get to the test server, you'll navigate, or you'll just type http://fr.test.languagelogic.net/ascribe in your address bar. For those of you that have been part of a community preview before, you may already have this saved on your desktop. But again, this is FR Test is our version 8.0 release candidate. Okay. All right. So now let's go ahead and get into Ascribe version 8.0. And the first thing to talk about is the sign-in. So when you navigate to fr.test.languagelogic.net/ascribe, this is what you'll encounter. Actually, your boxes here may be blank, but it's actually asking for your account name, your username, and your password. So the sign-in screen is actually already kind of inviting you into the world of Ascribe with the home page kind of blurred out behind. I believe if you're using IE, the home page is not blurred out. It's pretty clear, but I just wanted to make sure you know that. Go ahead and get logged in. Maybe, what's that password there? Okay, and then you sign in, and this is the home page. The first time you log in, you will get this overlay of the home page, kind of telling you a little bit of a showing you what's new or what the different items are on the home page. We'll talk about our navigation menu. We'll talk about the Ascribe applications, so it's application-driven navigation. We'll talk about the hamburger or the pull-out menu, and we'll also talk about one-click navigation. To get the overlay to disappear, you just click anywhere. And then to get it back, you hit F1. So F1 brings the overlay back if you're interested in seeing it. And throughout Ascribe, when you hit F1, that will bring up the help for that particular page. Okay? All right, so this is a new home page, and it's, as I said, it's product-based or application-based navigation. So our main tools are right here in the middle of the home page with Coder, Inspector, Accelerator, and Illustrator. Access all right here. If you do not have an Inspector license or you do not have an Illustrator license, they will be grayed out, but they'll still be on your home page. Today, if you right-click on the home page, what you'll find is that there is direct access to Ascribe Coder, and it does exactly what clicking on the Coder icon does. It brings up your recent, the recent questions that you've been in, that your username has accessed. So for me, I've accessed Laura Study Q1, Q11, and QFun. Also, it will list any studies that have questions that I've been assigned to. So I've also been assigned to all of these questions in Laura's study. And then, of course, you can search. Again, this is not new software. This is available today if you right-click and navigate to Ascribe Coder. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about this before we continue to go over the home page. So I'm going to navigate back to the home page. All right. So we know that we can access, we can get direct access to Coder, Inspector, Accelerator, or Illustrator. Also, if you want to go directly to Supervisor Studies, you can actually right-click on the Coder icon, and there's a few shortcuts to get the studies, samples, and shipped studies. These may change. Studies will always be here, and I think samples will too, but places that we navigate too often will appear here. Or right now, these are the things we've chosen to put here. But if you have feedback on what you'd like to see in that right-click menu, we're happy to entertain that feedback. Also, the three little dots do exactly the same thing. So the three little dots will give you access to, it's the same as right-clicking. The three little dots, of course, on a Mac. You don't always have right-click menus, so the three little dots replace that. You probably also see those on your smartphones or your tablets as well. Okay, so yes, I can navigate directly to studies from here. All right, and this is a sneak peek of the studies page. We'll be coming back to that in a minute. Okay, so what about our right-click navigation menus? I mentioned that right-click navigation, right-click and white space navigation is no longer available. Rather, we use our navigation icon to navigate. Okay, so every page in Ascribe will have a navigation icon. And that navigation icon gives us our main menu, or the menu that we're used to seeing, which is user privilege-based or privilege-based menu, right? So to get to that, you just click on your navigation icon. So I could still go to Supervisor Studies from here. I'm going to click on my navigation icon and go back home. Again, right-click navigation, and the blue bar that's on our home page today has been replaced with the navigation icon. Okay. Also, on the home page, we have this little hamburger. What does Mike calls it a pull-out menu. So a little pull-out menu. And the pull-out menu today just lists some of the general tools that we have available. The pull-out menu is the only place that you'll find what's new, change password, or agreements. Okay? Everything else is still available here under general. Just making sure you see that. We're still trying to figure out what's best to put over here in the pull-out menu or in the hamburger. I think eventually it may morph into a project management tool. But with the release on September 19th, this is what we'll see. Okay? So that's basically the home page. One more thing to talk about on the home page. Some of us use the one-click navigation. So if we go to General User Options, we have this Ascribe one-click page navigation, so that if we want studies to be the place that we navigate with the one-click shortcut, and this is available again today in Ascribe, it's just that we use the icon that's up here in the top right. Well, the one-click navigation shortcut is now down here at the bottom right. So I set that to studies, so if I click on that, that's a shortcut to go to studies. So for those of you that are often navigating the supervisor studies, you may want to go ahead and set your user options for the one-click page to go to studies. All right, and then of course this is the shortcut to get to studies. Okay, so the next thing that I kind of wanted to talk about is some uniformity. So this cohesive look and feel that, that I've been talking about. And I'm going to go ahead and go to the What's New page just to kind of start talking about that cohesive look and feel that we have. So every page in Ascribe that we can navigate to should have a header. And in that header, you have a navigation icon that gives you your main, your main menu navigations. And also in the header, it should tell you which page you're on. So I'm on the What's New page right now. And then, of course, each page will have a footer. In the footer, of course, will have the Ascribe Intelligence logo or the logo that's pertinent to the page that we're on. So we're in Coder. It will say Ascribe Coder. And, of course, this is still that one-click navigation. All right. So go back to home. So that, again, was the What's New page. Now let's actually navigate to the Studies page and talk a little bit about the Studies page. So the Studies page, again, you'll see we've got the header, and in the header we've got our navigation icon, and we've got a couple of icons. We've got an icon to add a new study and an icon for restoring the study. We know we're on the Studies page because it tells us so over here. At the bottom of the page, we've got this Ascribe Coder icon, and again, it's just the shortcut. These, I've been asked, can we remove these? And right now, no. This is kind of to keep that cohesive uniformity look and feel, so that we know we're in Ascribe at all times, and we know where we're at in Ascribe at all times. Okay. So the other thing about the studies page, you'll see that it's just the general feel of it has changed. The yellow bars have become gray bars. It's just been modernized, and we're using the same font throughout. Okay, and it should be the legible, I believe it's the Calibri that we're using throughout now. One other important thing to point out is that the export to Excel is available in Chrome. I'm actually in Chrome today. So I can hit export to Excel for my tables. So for those of you that aren't using Chrome because you can't export to Excel, that will be fixed in version 8.0. All right, so I talked about the page name, the navigation icon, the headers and the footers. Right-click navigation, right-click in white space, not available. When I right-click in white space, I do not get a menu. If I want to navigate somewhere, I'm going to click on my navigation icon, or I'm going to click on the study that I'd like to access. Okay, when I click on the study I'd like to access, you'll notice that we do still have add a new study here and restore a study, save a study, all those are the same tools that we had previously. Okay, we just don't have the right click and white space navigation menus any longer. So we can add a new study here, or we can add a new study down here. Same with restoring a study here, or we can restore a study here. Okay. So that's the main change to the studies page. But eventually the studies page will look more like the jobs page, which is the next page that I'm going to take us to. The jobs page has kind of our the end result that we'd like for the studies page and the questions page. Let me pop to the questions page real quick and show you what the questions page looks like. Very similar to the studies page, same look and feel. Up here we just have to add a new question. But now let's talk about the jobs page. So I'm going to click on my navigation icon and go to General Jobs. And what I want to do is find last month. Hit refresh. There we go. Okay. So and these are all the jobs from the past month, or from last month, from August, on this account. And what I want to talk about is this grid. This is our updated tables. They're faster, and it's a more modern grid system is what the development team tells me. And what it allows us to do, this new grid system, this new table, is that we can actually change the columns that we're showing here. So so let me just talk a little bit about the layout of the screen again. Header, navigation icon, the name of the page, jobs. Below that, we have some tools for the grid or the table. Okay, so these are like our table tools. And over here, it tells us that we have 1 through 44 of 44 items showing. If we have 2,000 items here, it might say we're only viewing one of 50 or one of 100. And as we scroll down, it would show us more and more and more. You'll see that phenomenon. But what we'd like to do is eventually have this type of grid on the studies page and on the questions page as well. And actually, all of our tables in Ascribe would adhere to this layout. So the tools that we have available to us, of course, is a search. And this search is a little more involved than searches that we're used to. For instance, we can say, I just want to search the username for usernames that contain a certain something. Or I can say I want to search for username and a status. And you'll notice contains, not contains. So this is a very, very intricate search. We can keep it very simple, or we can add as many as we like. And we can say we want all, so it contains this, this, and this, or any of the following criteria. Okay? So the search for our tables has just become very, where we can bring up exactly what we want to bring up. All right? The next icon is our export to Excel. And then I'm going to skip over the reset grid settings and show you that after I talk about the choose columns. So choose columns, this is really cool because some of us would prefer, for instance, I might want my type at the end, and I might not want my seconds here. And maybe I want the status. Yeah, I'll go ahead and keep the status first, then the file name, or no, then I want the username. So I can change this. And when I change it, so now my status is first, then my username, my file name, the time created, so on and so forth. I can actually change the column width if I like. And everything that I do here sticks and is carried into my next session. It sticks to my username, okay? So if I were to log out and log back in and come to the jobs page, I would see status, username, file name, time created, and type. And I would see them in this order. And the columns would be the width that I left them. Of course, I can still sort, and the sort is actually indicated by the little arrows. So right now I'm sorting in descending order by time created. Click again, okay? Or I can sort by file name. That sticks as well. And I just want to make sure that we're very clear on that. That sticks as well. So we also have this option to reset the grid settings. So if you're not happy with the way it's sticking, or if support's trying to help you with something and trying to troubleshoot something, they might say, you know what, let's both reset our grid settings and start out back at the beginning and go from there. Okay, and you'll see how it reset back. Okay. Again, this is not today, the questions page and studies page will not be adhering to this new grid system, but we're putting it out there on the jobs page and then in some of our time accounting reports as well to get people used to it, to get people acclimated to it so that in a future release we can set this same tabling to the jobs and the questions page. Okay. So the next thing that I want to talk about is actually Ascribe Coder. So we're going to go into Ascribe Coder, and I'm going to actually go into Q11. I want to talk a little bit about what we have here, some of the updates that we've done to Ascribe Coder from your feedback. The first thing that I want to talk about is code duplicates. And code duplicates, previously, if you coded one duplicate, it coded all of them, okay? And now what we're doing is giving you the option to either code all duplicates, which would be all 1,135, any duplicates in this base set, or just the displayed responses, to code the duplicates and just the displayed responses. You might ask, well, why would I want to do that? Some people code duplicates according to filters, so some things would be coded one way based on one filter and another way based on another filter. And others just don't want behind the scenes things that they can't see on their screen automatically coded. So it's up to you whether you want to not code duplicates, code all duplicates, or just the displayed responses. So that's new in version 8.0 in Ascribe Coder. And that's the code duplicates. The next thing that I'm going to talk about is the paging. So previously, when we searched, we limited the number of responses that could be displayed to 1,000. You could never display more than 1,000 responses. So if I search right now, oh, I don't want uncoded. I want all. And hit go. If I search right now, you'll see that it tells me that there's 1,135 responses, right? But the ones that I'm displaying, I'm only displaying 1,000 out of 1,135. And I have 2 pages. So there's 1,000 on my first page, and now 135 on my second page. Well, a lot of us aren't very fond of that. So the new limit, and by default, we will automatically set this to 1,000 with the release on September 19th. But the new limit that you can put in here is 30,000. We will never allow you to display, and I say never. I don't know if never is really true, but for now, we will not allow you to display more than 30,000 responses on a single page. Okay? So you're no longer restricted to just showing 1,000 per page, but you are restricted to showing only 30,000 per page. I think that affects a lot less people. So I just wanted to make sure we understood that paging restriction has been lifted, and it is now at 30,000. All right. So the next thing that I wanted to talk about is the set font. So under the response settings, and actually no, I want to talk about hide icons first. Under response settings in the appearance tab, there's two things that I want to talk about here. Let me make this a little wider there. Two things that I want to talk about. The first one is the fact that we can hide certain tools in our toolbar now. So if you don't always need your print icon, you can hide your print icon. You can hide your filters and sorting icon. You can hide your sources and your word list. And this is so, if you have a smaller screen, some of us work on laptops, and if we have a smaller screen, we don't like it when this thing wraps around. So we can actually, just show the icons that we're using or that we want to be in our toolbar. Just show the tools that we'd like to use. These things down here, the search result counts, the counts are what's in white. I turn those off. In the search result settings, or what comes up in yellow here, which is if you have a search or if you have a filter or if you have a sort, those are the things that come up in yellow. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on my filters there, my sources. Okay. So I just wanted to go over that. The tools, you control which tools are showing on your response pane. Now you might notice that there's a couple things that you cannot turn off, and that's the search, search again, or the response settings. Okay. So I'm going to turn these back on, and this back on, and this back on. All right. So those are the tools, and the ability to remove them from the toolbar or place them back in the toolbar. Then we actually have this addition of the fonts, or the ability to change the fonts. We've always had the ability to change the verbatim font. The difference here is that we can actually hide the verbatim font now if we like to. You might ask why someone would want to do that. That's something when a coder takes notes on something, or maybe they just want to see the translation and not the verbatim, we don't allow you to hide it today here. No matter if you have this verbatim box clicked or not, we're always showing you the verbatim. So what we've done is given you access to hide the verbatim if you need to. So if you just want to see the translation or the transcription of the notes, you can hide the verbatim. Of course, we don't need that option for translation, transcription, notes, because we already have those options. But we can change the font of the translation, transcription, notes, related responses, or applied codes. One of the things to note here is that today, the notes automatically show up in italics. They will no longer automatically show up in italics. You can change the font, you can change the font size, you can bold them, but they will not show up in italics. All right? The final thing to kind of talk about here is the study ID, question ID, and respondent ID. These used to take on the same characteristics as the verbatim. They no longer do. So if I change the verbatim to comic, you'll notice that the study ID, question ID, and respondent ID stay in Calibri, and that is they will. We can't change that. They're going to be just in standard Calibri, okay, no matter what the verbatim is. That, again, was feedback from the users group. All right. So that's the font settings that I wanted to talk about. We have a new sort and a new filter that we can mess around with now, and that's the load date. So we now have a load date on our filter page. So if you need to search for something that was loaded on a certain date or between a certain date, you can do that now. And if you need to sort by load order or load date, you can do that as well. So I know some of us sometimes for troubleshooting or just even for getting things coded, we want to code this stuff that was loaded earliest first. You can do that now. You can sort by load order or by load date. Okay, so those are our two new sorts. And finally, in the multi-mode, or just in Ascribe Coder, we now have access to, where did it go? Why is it not here? We're supposed to have access to open sessions. Am I just not seeing it? I guess I'll look into that and see why I'm not seeing that here today. But yes, we should have access to open sessions from Ascribe Coder. Oh, there it is. Tools, open sessions. So that's the other thing. If you've got your tools hidden and you want to bring one back, for instance, say I want to bring my word list back, or if I want to access my word list without putting it in my toolbar, it exists over here now in my navigation icon under tools. So navigation icon, tools, and these are the items that I might want to show in my toolbar or access without having to bring the icon back. Also, we have open sessions. So we can now see who else is logged in with us while we're in Ascribe Coder. And the keyboard shortcuts are made mainly for media files, and they're there today as well. So again, in our navigation icon, click on the navigation icon, we now have tools in our menu. We have the different icons. There are the different tools that we can access directly from the menu. Also open sessions. Okay, so that's everything I've got for multi-mode. Now let's talk about single mode for a minute. So I'm going to control-click on my settings icon and go to single mode. And what I'm seeing here, and I don't want to include related responses. There we go. What I'm seeing here is, of course, a single verbatim. And two things have changed here, or been enhanced here. First of all, I can just hit Tab to get to my next response. Second, I can actually type in part of a code and hit Enter to apply that code here. Okay? So I just applied the Dixie code. Then when I hit Tab, it'll take me to my next response. Okay, I don't want to code that one. I want to code this one. I can type in SOL. It'll find the solo code. I hit Tab and go to the next response. Okay. I could also, if I'm coding by just clicking, I can click on and I'm hitting Tab as I go. Okay, so Tab becomes a shortcut for applying codes. When you're actually typing in the find box, you don't have to hit Tab, because what you can do is just hit Enter when the box is empty, and it will go to the next one. Okay, and of course we've always been able to code by number here, by code number. So you type in 209, hit Enter, it selects it, hit Enter again, it applies it and moves to the next. So we've made the single response window a little bit easier to move from response to response and apply codes, or single response mode, I should say. All right. One more thing to talk about, and that's samples. And to do that, I'm going to, there is a question, and I wanted to talk about this anyway. It is the, there we go. So I've got code duplicates set to just displayed responses. If I want code duplicates to work in single response mode, then I would need to turn on code duplicates all. That way, when I code one none, you'll see that it actually last coded 62. Okay, I can hit Tab to move to my next one. And now I code this Dixie, and it actually last coded 452. And I can hit Tab to move to my next one. So if you want code duplicates to work in this mode, then you would have to make sure that you have your settings set to code duplicates all. All right. So for this next one, I want to talk about samples and how samples work. And I'm going to do this by going into Q1 and navigating into Ascribe Coder. Okay? And I'm going to set a filter. Well, actually, I wanted to go to multi-mode and I'm going to set a filter. Filters, there we are, for a question, Q1 Lang, and I'm going to set it for language 1, which is Spanish, and hit OK. Close that. Return responses. Okay. So, and actually what I want to do, just so that you can see this, I want to return all responses. So I've returned all 503 responses that are in this filter, okay, that are in language 1, which is Spanish. 503 here. Notice that my base over here is still 1,092. And this, the 70, is actually based on 1,092 and not this 503. And I can show you that pretty clearly by hitting Search Any here. And you'll see that 70 is 6.4% of 1,092. All right? Even though I know that my base right now, bring these all up again, that my base right now is 503. All right? So what if you want your percentages over here based on this number rather than this number? What you'd want to do is return all the responses in the filter, which we've done here. And let me turn these guys off again. There we go. So these are all the responses in my filter. I right-click and say Create Sample. And it's going to be a temporary sample because I just want to use it for now, unless it's something that I want to kind of permanently save. And if I want to permanently save it, then I would uncheck temporary. But we're going to leave it temporary for now, which is the new feature, and hit OK. Since it's a temporary sample, what it does is goes ahead and applies that sample. So it changes your coding source. Our coding source was just changed to our temporary sample. Okay? And you see up here the 503. You see here the 503. You see that the percentage over here has changed to 14%. All right? So now when I'm coding, my percentages are going to be based on my filter or my sample rather than on that on the 1,092 that's actually in this question. So how do I get out of my filter or out of my sample? Well, I can go up here and notice that it's on samples, temporary, and I can change my coding source to Q1. And notice that it went right back to 1,092 in my base. And when I hover over, it tells me that 503 is 46.1% of 1,092. I just wanted to make sure I made that very clear to everyone because these numbers, the counts and percentages on the code book are different than what we see in review responses today when we have a filter set. Okay? Now, that temporary sample does hang around until you log off. So that temporary sample will be available for me until I log out. So it will stay here under my samples again until I log out and log back in. Okay? So that's samples. That's pretty much everything I have for Ascribe Coder. There was one other thing I wanted to show, and that's Accelerator. ACM has been replaced with Accelerator. So now we no longer have trainings and models and ACMs. We just have accelerators. Okay? And an accelerator, the accelerator tool is just this simple. We have a list of the accelerators on the left. We can access the training examples over here, and it's an interface very similar to Ascribe Coder, which will make it a lot easier for us to manage and access our training examples. I'm not going to go into any more detail right now on Ascribe Accelerator. We are going to plan some webinars on Ascribe Accelerator moving forward, but the basics, very simple. This is Ascribe Accelerator. We took 10 pages and morphed them into one and tried to keep the same look and feel as Ascribe Coder, same tools as Ascribe Coder. And to navigate out, pop right back here and go over to home. So Antoine, were there any questions that came up while we were going through this? I saw some things popping up.
I answered the questions. One was asking if we were removing review responses on the 19th, and I told them no, review responses will remain until 2000.
Let me address that quickly here, and I didn't address that this morning. That question didn't come up, and I didn't actually think about it. So the question was, are we deleting the old review responses, single response coder interface, and edit the codebook tools on September 19th? We had a meeting about that and decided that we were actually not going to remove them on September 19th. The plan is to remove them in early 2015, but we will not be supporting those tools. Okay? We didn't want to pull these tools out from under everyone during their busy season if they needed to fall back to them, but we will be removing them. So it's still in everybody's best interest to move to Ascribe Coder. And just after consideration, we decided to leave them out there, but our support team and our training team we will not be supporting review responses, the single response coder interface, or edit the code book. So you're going to kind of be out there on your own, and if something breaks with an update of Chrome or Internet Explorer, we will not be fixing those tools. Okay? So I just want to put it out there. It's still in your best interest to move to Ascribe Coder as soon as possible. And we would hope that everybody would be there. And it is mostly, most teams are using Ascribe Coder 100% of the time. We have a few, mostly overseas teams that are not. And we're working on kind of contacting each of them individually and getting them moved over to Ascribe Coder as well. So any other questions or any other feedback that you might have on this first look at version 8.0. Some of you may have seen it before in the users group, but what I'd like to do is just remind you that you can access version 8.0 by going to frtest.languagelogic.net/ascribe. Just use your normal account credentials. If you can't get in, email support and we'll help you get in. And I just would challenge everyone to at least go in and go through the steps that you would go through to set up a study, load your data, and code some stuff in Ascribe Coder and output it. That way you know when version 8.0 comes out that it's going to work for you and your team.